In the 1960s, the Civil Rights Movement was a big thing. In 1965, the Civil Rights Act was established, but clearly not in the neighborhood of Watts. In 1968, the arrest of a black man sparked the riot. I'm here to interview my grandmother, Carmela Botita, who was at Watts at the time of the riot. Hi.
Hey.
I would like to ask you a few questions.
Fine.
How old were you at the time of the riot?
I was 19 and I had been married for a month.
What was that before the riot?
Everything in Watts at the time was relatively quiet. We had had no major incidents up until that time.
What was your job at the Bureau of Public Assistance?
I was a key punch operator. We were the ones who used to punch out the key punch cards that went into the computers to run the computers.
Were you friends with any of the African Americans there?
Yes, several of the girls. We used to go out to lunch on Fridays all the time.
That's nice. What was it like during the riot?
At first it was kind of scary. The girls coming into work from Watts were frightened and angry that strangers had come in and started the riot in their city or in their blocks.
Wow. At the time of the riot, what were you doing?
I was working. We were up on the 7th floor and we were key punching.
What were the fires in Watts like when you're at work?
When they started, they were far off in the distance in Watts. University of Southern California, USC, is between where I worked on Grand Avenue and the Watts. And as they began to get closer to the university, we began to get frightened because they were now getting into downtown LA.
Mm. Did you hear about the arrest of the young African American man?
No, actually I didn't. At least not on the radio, though it was probably talked about that evening at work.
Who was left at the building at 8 o'clock at night?
The entire 7th floor, which would have been all the key punch operators, which were mostly women, and the men who ran all the big IBM machines.
The African Americans that saved you, was there a second plan just in case if something happened? If there is, what was it?
That's actually a good question because now that I look back on it, we had no second plan. The only thing that the guys were thinking about was trying to get these 2 white girls out of the building safely and away from LA as quickly as possible.
What would you think would happen if you got caught by the rioters or the LAPD?
Either way, it would have been bad for all of us. If we were caught by the rioters, everybody would have gotten beat up. I don't know what would have happened to me. If we would have got caught by the LAPD, they wouldn't have asked questions. They would have just beat up the black boys who were trying to save us.
Where did you and the African Americans escape to?
Into Hollywood, where we met my father.
Was there anyone following you?
Another black gentleman. There was a gentleman driving my car. I was in the back seat of my car on the floor and covered up. And there was another one following us.
Did anyone in your group get hurt during the escape?
Fortunately, no. We were all fine.
That's good to hear. How did you get to your escape point, like the route that you took?
We first called my father to tell him where we would be and where he was to meet us. We left LA, took the Los Angeles freeway to the Hollywood freeway, and as we approached the valley just outside of Hollywood, we took one of the exits off of there where my father was waiting for us.
At the end of your escape, who picked you up?
My dad picked us up.
Well, and if I can make a side question here, what was he like when he saw you?
Oh, he was relieved. When we pulled over behind my dad's car, there was an LAPD police behind us. He pulled over and he was going to go to attack the black man, and my father told him to please stop because it was them who saved me, and they backed off. So it was really good that my dad was there.
Wow, I would actually pretty imagine what would happen if he wasn't there.
It would have been ugly.
After escape, what did you do next?
One of the men drove my car the rest of the way home. We went home, and the gentleman who helped get me out of Los Angeles, warned me and told my parents to be sure that we did not go into LA no matter what. Even if the building was open for business, I was to stay safely. It would not have been safe for any white girl to be in the area at the time.
Did you ever see the two African Americans that saved you again?
Oh yes, when we went back to work a week later when everything was quiet down.
That's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it was.
After your escape and the end of the Watts Riot, did you go back to remember what happened that day?
No, not there exactly, but surprisingly enough, I was back in LA during the Rodney King riot. So it was like reliving the Watts Riot all over again just several years later.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions.
You're quite welcome. I was glad.